The evening was supposed to be one of laughter, nostalgia, and charm, the kind of effortless entertainment that Graham Norton had built his career on. His red sofa was ready, the audience was buzzing, and the guest lineup was star-studded. But no one could have predicted that one of Britain's most beloved actresses, Dame Judi Dench, would walk off the stage after a tense and very public argument with the usually unflappable host. From the start, something felt different. Judi had arrived looking elegant as ever in a soft blue suit, her silver hair glowing under the studio lights. Yet her usual warmth seemed a bit dimmed. Graham, always ready with quick wit and playful banter, greeted her with open arms. Dame Judi, the woman who's seen more James Bonds than most of us have had cups of tea. He joked. The audience laughed, but Judi merely smiled thinly. She had been promoting her upcoming memoir, a book filled with candid stories from her decades-long career. But rumors had been swirling that parts of it criticized how modern talk shows exploit celebrities for viral clips. Graham, always one to walk the fine line between humor and provocation, decided to bring it up. "So Judi," he began, crossing his legs casually, "in your book you mention that today's interviews sometimes lack respect for artistry. I must ask, are you talking about shows like mine?" The audience chuckled nervously. Judi adjusted her glasses and gave him a pointed look. "I think you know very well what I mean, Graham," she said. "When interviews become about embarrassing stories rather than the work, something gets lost." Graham tried to steer the mood back to fun. "Well, that's what people love about these shows, isn't it? A bit of fun, a bit of humanity. You once told me about hiding in a closet with Maggie Smith after a bad performance." But Judi didn't laugh. "Yes," she said sharply, "and you turned that story into a meme the next day. It became a joke when it wasn't meant to be." The crowd went silent. Graham blinked, visibly surprised. "Oh, come on, Judi, it's all in good spirit. Everyone knows how much the public adores you." Judi's tone softened but remained firm. "Adoration isn't the same as respect. Sometimes it feels as though we've forgotten that difference." At that moment, the atmosphere in the studio shifted completely. The audience, unsure whether to laugh or stay quiet, exchanged uneasy glances. The cameras zoomed in on Judi's face, calm but resolute. Graham, clearly unsettled, tried again to lighten the exchange. "I suppose we'll have to behave better next time, won't we?" he said, forcing a chuckle. "Perhaps fewer jokes and more Shakespeare quotes." But Judi's reply was unexpected. "That might not be such a bad idea, Graham. At least Shakespeare never interrupted his actors mid-sentence." That comment landed hard. Even the band stopped playing. Graham's smile faded for the first time in the entire evening. "Well," he said coolly, "perhaps you'd prefer a stage instead of a sofa, Dame Judi." She met his gaze steadily. "Perhaps I would." The silence that followed was thick and awkward. Then, to everyone's shock, Judi calmly stood up, removed her microphone, and said softly, "I think that's enough for tonight." Gasps filled the studio. Graham tried to call her back, but she simply nodded politely to the audience and walked off stage. The cameras quickly cut to a wide shot, and Graham, visibly flustered, said with a half smile, "Well, Dame Judi Dench, ladies and gentlemen, always dramatic." The show cut to a commercial break. Behind the scenes, producers rushed to Judi's dressing room, while Graham remained seated, shaking his head. He knew this moment would explode online, and it did. Within hours, clips of the exchange went viral. Some viewers defended Judi, saying she was right to stand up for respect. Others claimed she had overreacted to harmless banter. But for Graham, the damage was done. BBC executives were reportedly furious about how the situation was handled. And Judi Dench, though deeply respected, made it clear in later interviews that she would never return to that sofa again. For a host known for his charm, it was a rare, and very public, misstep. For Judi Dench, it was a reminder that even in a world of bright lights and laughter, dignity still mattered more than applause. The fallout from that night was immediate and overwhelming. By the next morning, social media was flooded with clips and divided opinions. Hashtags like #TeamJudi and #TeamGraham trended for hours. Some fans argued that Graham had pushed too far for entertainment, while others believed Judi Dench had misunderstood his humor. But one thing was clear, the exchange had shaken both of their reputations. Inside the BBC headquarters, tension simmered. Producers of the Graham Norton show held an emergency meeting to discuss how to handle the situation. The network's PR team feared that Judi Dench's walkout would overshadow the entire season. "We can't lose her," one producer reportedly said. "She's a national treasure." Another responded sharply, "We can't lose Graham either, he is the show." Meanwhile, Judi Dench stayed silent for a few days. Paparazzi caught glimpses of her leaving her countryside home, refusing to comment on the incident. But those close to her revealed that she felt deeply hurt. "She's not angry," a friend told The Guardian. "She's disappointed. She's known Graham for years, she expected empathy, not teasing." For his part, Graham tried to maintain his trademark calm. On the next episode of his show, he opened with a carefully written monologue. "Sometimes in this job," he said, "our sense of humor can cross paths with sensitivity. Dame Judi Dench is someone I admire enormously, and if I made her uncomfortable, I truly regret it." The audience applauded, sensing sincerity. But the internet wasn't ready to move on. Clips of his apology were dissected, debated, and re-edited into countless fan videos. Some claimed he was only apologizing to protect his career. Others said it was too little, too late. Then, just when things seemed to settle, Judi appeared on BBC Radio 4 to promote her memoir again. The host gently asked her about that night. Judi sighed before answering. "Graham and I have shared many laughs over the years," she said softly. "But sometimes, even laughter needs boundaries. I think we both learned something from that evening." Her words were calm, but firm enough to suggest she hadn't entirely forgiven him. Yet, her grace turned the tide. The public began to see the clash as a misunderstanding between two professionals under pressure, not a feud. Behind the scenes, Graham reached out privately. He sent Judi a handwritten letter, not a text, not an email. In it, he apologized sincerely, saying, "You've been one of my favorite guests and one of my favorite people. I never wanted our laughter to turn into pain." A week later, Judi replied with her own note, short but meaningful, "Apology accepted. Just remember, a dame doesn't storm off without a reason." Months passed, and the story gradually faded from headlines. But when the BAFTA Awards came around, the entertainment world held its breath, because both Judi Dench and Graham Norton were scheduled to attend. During the ceremony, cameras caught them greeting each other politely. A few words, a small smile, and a brief handshake, but it was enough to send the crowd cheering. It wasn't reconciliation in the grand Hollywood sense, but it was peace. Later that evening, when Graham presented an award, he couldn't resist one gentle joke. "I'd like to thank everyone for not storming off tonight," he quipped, and the camera panned to Judi, who laughed and gave him a playful wink. The audience roared. It was a full-circle moment, two British icons showing that even after a clash, grace and humor could prevail. Behind the laughter, though, both had learned something valuable. For Graham, it was a reminder that entertainment must never come at the cost of empathy. For Judi, it was proof that standing up for one's dignity could inspire respect, not resentment. In the end, their clash became more than a viral moment. It became a story about professionalism, respect, and the delicate dance between humor and humanity on live television. And though Judi Dench never returned as a guest on The Graham Norton Show, her presence, and that unforgettable night, remained a part of its legacy forever.